Okay, we're good. Yep. Okay. Welcome back to the JJ Presses podcast. Unfortunately, Jay's not here today. She's been busy, but so it'll be me handling the reins. And for our guest today, we have Patrick Halsey, aka Coach Patty, on Instagram. He's one of my favorite lifters to watch, and yeah, he and I actually competed against each other a number of times. Pat, please welcome.
Hello,
welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jono. Excited to be here.
Yeah, good to have
thanks,
you,
man.
All right, I guess let's just get right into it.
Yeah, sure.
To start, let's just start with, before you got into weightlifting.
Yeah.
What were you doing around then?
So before weightlifting, I've always played sports.
Mm-hmm.
My big one was rugby league, and I did that for 13 or so years.
Damn.
So pretty much my whole life, really.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I guess my late teenage years that I started to take it a bit more seriously. It became less of a fun, casual thing to do with friends, and more of like, I could maybe make something of this.
Yeah.
Like if I, really took it seriously, did all the nutrition, gym stuff, and I put my best foot forward, maybe I could go somewhere with it.
Nice.
So yeah, that was probably 17, 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really starting to kind of, find my feet and, play my best footy. Up until I think when I was 18, I was playing a game and it was a very fierce game. It was like a local derby between two clubs. And then, I was going in to tackle one of the taller guys, and he had his elbows a little bit higher than normal, and I had my head in the wrong spot and went straight into my jaw. Yeah. And I broke my jaw in two places. So
On either side?
yeah, well, so where the elbow impacted my face, there was a crack, and then because of the force, there was also a crack on the other side. So it was pretty
That
significant.
sucks. Did you get concussed from that as well?
Massive concussed. I pretty much was out for 1 or 2 seconds after I hit the ground. I got up. I couldn't, my teeth were dislodged, and I'd had lots of teeth. I not the first time I'd been hit in the face playing football.
Yeah.
I was almost kind of scrounging around on the ground looking for my teeth. Oh shit, where did they go? Freaking out. And obviously when you're concussed, you're not really thinking clearly.
Yeah.
You're not in a great state of mind.
I figure when you get into, was it league or union?
League, rugby league, sorry.
Yeah, so when you get into it, either sport, you kind of have to expect, I'm going to get hit in the head.
Oh, absolutely.
At least once.
And I hadn't had,
times.
I guess, I'd broken bones and that before. I have not had such a severe injury as that. But it was very, not funny for me, but for my teammates, I was there going, no, I'm good. Just strap my face up, strap my skull up. I'll go back on the field. And they're just like, this guy needs to go to the hospital right now.
Yeah. And
so,
did you, in that moment, do you remember if you realized that your jaw was broken?
It was very sore. It was very sore,
okay.
But I think, you just had that adrenaline take over you, and I was just, committed to the cause. I was like, no, get me back out there. I was very passionate into the game. But, to everyone's better interests rather than mine, I was shipped to the hospital and I had some x-rays taken.
Right call.
Yeah, so that's that was probably my most traumatic injury.
Sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, but I was still in love with the game.
Yeah.
I went and got surgery, and it all kind of came around pretty well. There wasn't any complications.
Okay, that's good.
And I was back for the grand final, which we won, and I started trying.
Wait, how long were you out for?
Probably about 8 to 10ish weeks.
Okay, that's way shorter than I thought.
Yeah. So I probably had about 2 weeks until the surgery.
Yep.
It was obviously it's very impeding. It's very they're restructuring my whole face essentially, well, more my jaw, but. That happened, and then there was about an 8 to 12 week. They said you can go back to play around 8 weeks, but that's kind of you prefer to wait to 12 just to mitigate the risk. But the grand final was coming up, and I was like, this is my first grand final ever. I'm not going to miss this. I went back. The first hit up I took, I got absolutely creamed. I've never been hit harder. And I think my shoulder still hurts to this day. This was 5 years ago. And I got cleaned up. It was a spectacle for everyone in the audience, but I just got back up and I kept going.
Nice.
And I scored a try, which was probably the highlight of my whole year then. Going back.
Did you guys win that grand final?
We did.
Nice.
We did. So that was my first grand final win, and
nice.
It was a great way to finish the season.
how far was that league? So that was in Bathurst, right?
Yes.
Was that a regional comp?
Yeah. That was just a local competition.
Cool. Yeah, still, man, grand final is grand final.
Oh, yeah. And it was once again against the team that I broke my jaw versing in the normal round.
Oh, so it was personal.
Back for vengeance. Yeah, absolutely. So that was a huge moment. And then between those years, before and after, I was playing a lot of representative football.
Yep.
I didn't necessarily succeed too well in that. I was, on the bench. I was still finding my feet in that regard, but I felt like I was kind of coming into my own form towards the end there, just before I broke my jaw, which was, a little bit frustrating. But the following year, I kind of came back. You know what it's like, big traumatic injury, going back into the sport, confidence is just at an all-time low.
Yeah, you just got to take it little bit by bit.
So that was, and then that was also the year of COVID, and also marked the year of me going into against seniors in men's teams. Mm-hmm. So there was a big increase in skill.
You were around 17, 18?
So I would have been 19 this year, so this is just the year after my last year.
And you're versing mid-20s adults.
Yeah, mate, 30-year-olds.
And they're all massive.
Oh, man.
Right?
And
what position did you play?
Lock. So lock. Right in the middle of the field.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't necessarily the biggest guy there, but that's just where I played my whole life. So, but yeah, it was against some rougher teams as well. I mean, it was, this is more local kind of regional football where the officiating is sometimes there's no bloody video refs like there is in NRL. So sometimes you kind of get away with some things that the ref doesn't see, which is just it's part of it. But that was probably, it was very different that year because coming back from injury, and it was during COVID, everyone was going through everything, and I just kind of had lost that spark for playing rugby league. But there was still that kind of itch inside me to find something
competitive.
Absolutely, yeah.
And is that how you found weightlifting?
Pretty much, yeah. So even going back before COVID, 3 years before that, I was in the gym. I just started doing it. I was doing a little long distance running and then some gym to supplement that. And then it wasn't until a year later I found the strength and conditioning gym that I've been working at for the past 7 years. And Coach Kieran, he pretty much said, do this and this and this and this, and you can train here 3 to 4 times a week. And I loved it. And I almost loved it a bit more than football. So it only took that kind of after having that jaw injury and that period of I'm not really enjoying this, what else can I do? And that's when I started looking at other options. And I guess when you think about gym-based sports, you think bodybuilding, powerlifting, weightlifting, and after I decided to stop playing football after that year because I was also getting concussions and migraines, and I couldn't even after a game, just the whiplash and the contact, I couldn't even read. Oh my god, yeah. Cognitive functioning was also an all-time low.
Yes, it's good for just brain health.
Absolutely.
It's none of this, all the strength sports, none of them are contact.
No,
so that's good in that regard.
It's safe. Yeah.
And it's statistically, I think it's one of the safest sports you can do.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Especially compared to rugby, even court sports like basketball, volleyball.
Yeah, because in rugby and court sports, like you said, there's always that quick movement. There's always that chance for
there's the unpredictability. Obviously, weightlifting has its unpredictable situations, but it's
way less.
Absolutely.
Because it's only you on the platform and in training pretty much, and on the field there's other players, the ball, the ref, and everyone else is how they're going. So
it's very
so many factors.
Absolutely. And I guess by that point I was I need to pull the plug. 13 years has probably been a bit.
It's a lot, man.
I've had enough of this.
But I'm sure, dude. Did you do a lot of weight training while you were playing footy?
Yeah, heaps. So like I said, the gym was my second home.
Gotcha.
If I wasn't on the footy field, I was in the gym. And if I was in the gym, I was just at home to sleep.
Yeah, so you had a pretty giant training age.
Oh my god, I've been doing GPP for 7 years. Not even kidding.
At that time, and then up to now, plus weightlifting for about 4 years.
Yeah, this has been my third year fully training. Probably.
Yeah, so a little over 10 years of training.
Yeah.
All up. And it shows when you're on the platform too. Dude, your progress has been insane.
Yeah.
I think since 2023 Nationals, where you hit, was it a 120? 28.
This is last year.
Last year nationals.
Yeah, so last year hit 125 as my
25,
third snatch and 161 as
That's
my third.
right.
Clean and jerk. Yeah,
That's right. I remember.
Yes, that was. I don't think I could have done a kilo more on that clean and jerk. Honestly.
Yeah, it was pretty sick to watch.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Because prior to that, you were around the low 120s.
Yeah,
And
so
then-
the competition, so under 23s nationals, which was I think 6 months prior, I hit 120 on the platform, and I got 150 and then I missed 157, but I honestly could have done anything between 50 and 55. It was just kind of on the day.
Yeah, I remember, because I was watching that comp as well, because I just wanted to see how you were going. Because at the time, you and I were pretty close.
Yes,
in
you were
numbers,
matched.
right?
Well, you beat me at nationals.
Yeah, I beat you at
before.
nationals, and then I was like, "Oh, Paddy's he's coming for blood."
Yeah,
I know he's gonna.
I was hungry. It just obviously there was a few things. I was making progress, but there was definitely a few things to figure out before I could hit those heavier numbers.
Yeah, for sure. And like I was watching because I knew you were gonna go for something pretty good. Like you were definitely gonna. I reckon you were gonna exceed me at that comp, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta keep up.
Gotta lock in. You gotta keep
lock
your vision
in,
tight.
dude. And I'm like, when you missed you said you missed 57.
I did 15, missed 20, did 20 for the snatches, and then for the clean and jerks I got 50. And then I missed 57 twice.
That's right.
But between 50 and 57, there was another lifter who took 3 attempts and bombed out.
That's right. Yeah, I remember. Like when I saw it, like, dude, 57. It's just a matter of time before that's like an opener. Like it's scary. To watch.
I had only hit it. I hit leading into that competition. This is March 2023. I'd hit 57 in training. That was a huge number for me because that's probably the first time I'd actually gone above 50 in a good year.
Yeah.
So
and that was a
big
training,
moment.
right?
That was in training, and then I think the week after I hit 60. Now both of those clean and jerks were. They were terrible. They were not good. You would, in retrospect, looking at those, I'm like, how I thought I was going to get on the platform is beyond me. Maybe on a good day, but there was a lot more variables on that day than I was ready. Like I was not. I'm still not very experienced, but it really showed at that competition specifically.
Yeah. Do you mean experience in terms of like competing in weightlifting, like on the platform?
Like on the platform, and then also training as well.
Right,
Probably just a combination of everything.
I see.
I had the physical ability to do it,
Yep.
but to kind of merge all that training experience in the day, it just wasn't there. So
interesting. Yeah. Because like the weightlifting, the game, I guess it's all mental.
Absolutely,
like, it's just persevering through like really tough times and then like pivoting when you need to.
Absolutely,
especially
like being
so
flexible.
you're not like
I think nationals that year. So what you were saying then, the numbers that I hit.
2023 nationals.
Yeah. And that was like, the clean and jerk was an 11 kilo comp PB.
That's massive.
Yeah, so it was a long time coming.
That's
but
massive.
That probably
dude.
also coincided with my, learned experience from earlier in the year and the competitions past to be like, just chill a bit more in the back room. Don't take all the weights for granted. Like you have to, work up to it, and the opener doesn't necessarily mean that's where you're going to finish. Like there's just so many different things that I had to kind of go through to see the light at the end of the tunnel, really.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good to go through that, especially like carrying that to comp, treating every warm-up like it's, I guess, not exactly a max, but taking it seriously.
Absolutely,
even if it's like 50 kilos,
100%.
Taking that seriously, because it still shows if you're like half-assing it.
Absolutely.
Pretty much, So treating every warm-up properly is like, it just carries it onto the platform.
Yes.
And it shows.
Yes.
Like
absolutely.
when you see that on the platform, you see, when you're competing, it's hard to tell.
Yes,
but when
of
you
course.
see it from the audience,
you
can tell like who's been kind of like slack with their warm-ups a bit. They're a bit like, they're not all there.
They haven't maybe experienced this part of the weightlifting journey. I mean, like for me, I think now that I'm starting to plateau a little bit more than I have previous, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I can see it as like a a good thing, so to speak.
Like an opportunity.
Yeah, I know what these weights feel like. Like I know how to approach this in the back room. I know how things should be feeling. And when you're progressing like as fast as I have over the past few years, like especially in this is for a lot of weightlifters in their first 2 years, you don't kind of get that to that sticking point, which is, I think, it's obviously there's a lot of framing on my behalf, but it's important to get a feel for what those weights should be like. Like 6 months apart, you're doing the same things, but you're learning more about yourself and more about the weights, and that's like where the experience is. I feel like,
and then over time, like once you keep doing those weights over and over again, like that confidence just builds.
Absolutely.
And then that, obviously you want to like show it on the platform as well.
Yes.
It pays off.
Absolutely.
All that effort of just repetitive.
Like you could be doing, like you look at people that haven't PB'd for years and years, and you from the outset you're like, oh geez, sucks to be him, hasn't PB'd in ages.
Like plateaued. What a scrub. That kind of stuff.
But from the other side, it's like that's almost like where you get to practice and put all that training into.
I think that's a good way of seeing it, like seeing it as practice.
Absolutely.
So it's really
and when it comes to competitions, that's like you can see, like you were saying before, you can see the people that have practiced that weight again and again and again, and they're like miles above anyone else that maybe is hitting a PB for the first time. So I think that's where the true beauty of the sport starts to come into it, when you've seen enough people lift to be like, he knows what he's doing. He's been around long enough to do those weights and do them well.
Yeah, and I think that's where stuff like Instagram and YouTube, like stuff like ATG, Hook Grip, Weightlifting House, all the media outlets for weightlifting, when they build those stories, you can see like, oh, this person has been floating around this level for a really long time, and then you just see them shoot up like crazy. I think the best example recently is probably what's his name, Rizky.
Yes,
the Indonesian lifter, and he beat
Rahmat.
Rizky was stuck for a while, and then he just broke through.
Yeah,
and like
all the glass ceiling almost.
Yeah, he broke through, and he's in the Olympics now. Yeah, which is pretty awesome.
Well, I didn't even know he existed until he won the at Thailand. Yeah, and like it's ridiculous. Obviously, he would have been around those weights for a very, very long time.
Yeah, he's been practicing, and like all his, I've seen the videos of him. All his warm-ups look like borderline perfect.
Yeah, he's very talented.
Yeah, very talented.
Very, very good athlete.
Yeah.
But I think that's the other thing with like the media trap, so to speak. You only see those, or I guess not even see them, but you only pay attention to those big increases.
Yeah.
And if you that's just the nature of social media, as you know. It's like you see people that you might compete against. Oh wow, why are they progressing so fast? They're doing so much better than me, but. Like, I guess, once again, this is from where I'm sitting, you just kind of got to take a back seat and just more or less like trust the process and just do the work, and you have to put your blinders on in a way and
absolutely.
Just focus on what you're doing.
Definitely. I agree with that 100%. So on top of that, what I do personally is like, it's their time to shine,
Absolutely,
like they work their ass off to get to that point.
And you might have had yours.
I had,
you might have more in the future.
Exactly. It's just because they have theirs doesn't mean you're gonna get your success.
Yeah,
you just have to keep doing what you're doing, really.
And I think the other thing as well, like obviously when you look at social media, it's that comparison thing. Like you're always looking at it from the perspective of you, right? Yeah. And you're like, oh, they're succeeding. That's a threat to me. But like in that moment, like why is that a threat to you? Like let them have their.
Because ultimately, because it's social media, you don't know what they've gone through to get to that.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
It's really good. Just because, personally, I've had that when I was watching your videos, to be honest.
Yes, Well, you don't know I was doing 7 years of GPP before I even got to weightlifting.
But now I know. I'm like, damn, okay. No, it's just a matter of time before he, gets even further.
Yeah. But it's ridiculous. Like, you see a lot of young athletes and anyone that's doing better than you, like, how is he doing that? How is he doing that? And you just don't know. And that also comes down to that's something that you can't control. Yeah. Like if they're going to be better than you, what are you going to do? You can't really do much.
You can't really do much. You just keep training, just keep trying.
Yeah.
And then there's that risky thing. He just kept going and going.
Yeah.
Because I think he's older than.
Is he?
I think so, by a little bit.
Yeah, they're both quite young.
They're both quite young, but he's a little older. Yeah. So I don't know if he's been training the longer, but all the attention was on Erwin.
Yes.
And he shot through.
Yeah.
When Irwin, like, you know, when he made mistakes.
Yeah.
It was just like, as long as you're prepared and you've kept doing the work, like, you'll break through eventually.
Yeah, it's a very good session to watch.
Yeah, that, like, I've watched that numerous times. Like,
yeah, it's probably one of my favorite sessions I've ever seen in my life.
So crazy. I'm looking forward to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be nuts.
Seeing Carlos Nassar do world record attempts once out.
Just because he can.
Yeah.
Just because he's such a monster.
Why not? I think I've seen him since Thailand have about, I would reckon, upwards of 8 attempts at world records. Because why wouldn't you?
Just because
it's not like your first Olympics coming up.
Yeah.
Or anything.
he treats it like, let's just max
To be
out.
honest, he's probably trained like that every day.
Probably.
Bulgarians.
And probably has like one rest day.
Yeah.
Maybe.
If
I don't
that.
know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Man. They're built different.
Yeah. Did you have any like world-class athletes that you like look up to or I guess shape? Because we unintentionally all shape our technique when we see stuff, right, on social media.
Yeah.
Did you have any of those lifters, like favorite lifters, really?
I guess I started when I was initially figuring out what I wanted to do. I would like watch a lot of those Chinese weightlifting team compilations that Hook Grip and ATG do, and they're always so fascinating.
Yeah,
and it's hilarious because like they make it look so easy. And then you go and try and do a quarter of that in the gym, and you're like, holy crap, how the hell am I supposed to do this?
It's like, this guy's chucking 200 kilos above his head.
Seriously, it's
and
insane.
I'm like, I have to work hard to put 90 above my head.
Yeah, honestly. And I guess that's what enticed me so much.
Yeah.
Like, how do they make it look so easy? And there's so much to weightlifting, and I was just so engrossed with the whole thing. Like, for the first 2 years, it just encapsulated my entire life. That's all I could think about.
Yeah.
But so that's probably like where I initially got started. Since then, though, I mostly look to like kind of more local lifters, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
I'm like kind of in a similar boat to you.
Yeah, yeah. Like I still love and appreciate the professionals and world champions and whatnot, and I still watch their sessions, and it's still very impressive. But I feel like just people a bit more personally, and even though probably they're a bit more in a similar situation comparably, it's like it's probably more satisfying to watch your teammates or watch people,
someone that you've known has like struggled for a bit.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Who's a good example of that? I don't know him personally, but Rory Scott.
Yeah,
that dude shot.
Oh my god,
his progress has shot like crazy.
See, watching people like him, people that at least through some degree of separation.
Yeah.
Like coming to nationals, I would watch that. I would watch that every day before I even watch a session at the Olympics. Like any Australian national session,
there's some association with those people.
Yeah, and they're like in a similar situation to you. Like they're not too different. Whereas like obviously Carlos Nassar has lived a very different life to all of us.
Like the circumstances, like it's not really easy to relate to that because
absolutely,
whole of the country, whole of the culture.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's over. I've never seen them in person.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever see probably 99.9% of those lifters that I see on TV in person. And I would love to go watch a session, but obviously, it's never in Australia.
Yeah.
There's, no Grand Prix or World Championships. So, like I said, just things that you can see in person and really like soak it in. That's like even watching the state champions yesterday.
Yeah, that was fun.
Absolutely,
was so fun,
I had so much fun watching the session, and even like you get to a point in the sport where you can appreciate that kind of stuff. It makes you almost appreciate even the local stuff even more. Like it's I find it really satisfying.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably my non-answer.
No, that's okay, man. No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. So yeah, you mentioned like your like that appreciation for weightlifting as a whole. Do you think that kind of came about from becoming a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when you're an athlete, you really have no choice but to focus on yourself, because the second you start looking outside yourself, it's once becomes that game of comparison and and that's
the inevitable trap.
Oh my god, that's the last thing you want to do as an athlete. Like so
especially in an individual sport.
100%.
In team sports, you kind of like
It's kind of like a catch-22 because it's an individual sport, but how are you supposed to enjoy the sport without looking outside yourself and going to competitions and whatnot? So so that was always a bit tricky, and still as an athlete today, like I find that hard.
It's so hard.
And being a coach / athlete is also very hard because you're often projecting, you know, how if you've had a crappy session, you know, you're not going to come into the gym with
and you have to wear like 2 different hats.
Yeah.
You know, you're a coach
you have to compartmentalize.
Yeah.
I always say to my athletes, like, do not look at what I do. Don't just listen to me
do
when
as
I'm
I
coaching
say.
you. Yeah, absolutely.
Not as I do. Because, you know, like, we're only human.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
We may max out every now and then.
No, I'm not allowed to. I don't max out. That's beyond me.
Yeah, not right now at least.
Yeah, not right now. But no, I think, and then the coach, like, I think there's a lot of more appreciation for the process. Once again, going back to that local level, I pretty much work exclusively with like grassroots athletes. So watching them go from never doing weightlifting, teaching the basics, to then like getting to a state or national level, like
that's awesome.
Oh, mate, it's fantastic.
That's
like
such a cool
it's
feeling.
so fulfilling personally to go through that process with them. And then once again, like watching other athletes go through that, and you can just kind of like appreciate the different coaching styles. You can appreciate the time and effort and commitment. Like there's just so many levels to it, and that's probably changed, I guess, my perspective of the sport rather than just purely from like who's the best, who can lift the most
like
weights,
a numbers standpoint.
Like like, and you can like even people that are even casually interested, and you can like you relate to them, talk to them. It's just probably kind of brings me a bit closer to the sport and the people in the sport, which
absolutely.
That, you know, having different roles to kind of play out.
Because it's not just athletes like building the sport, like the coaches are there,
volunteers, officials,
all super important. Like
absolutely,
it wouldn't happen without those people. Plate loaders, refs,
and I can guarantee you I'd be doing those roles as well if I wasn't already busy being an athlete coach.
I reckon I'm going to do plate loading at like nationals or something.
Absolutely,
because nationals is in Sydney. I'm like,
what else are you doing?
I'm probably not doing anything. Like, I'd be down to watch a session just from one of the best seats in the house.
Absolutely,
it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Like see some big boy weights just being flung. Like
or if there was like a world championships or like a Commonwealth Games in Australia, or even just like if I wasn't so busy organising the events, I would also plate load and volunteer for the events. But it's so many, like it takes a village really, and that's probably what makes this sport so special. It's just not just the individual. Like you have to kind of go outside yourself to realise how important everything is.
So, definitely.
It's
Like,
really cool.
Yeah, it's a really, because it's such a small scene, I guess.
Yeah,
everyone kind of knows each other, and then you see who's like not necessarily just putting in work as an athlete, because not everyone really wants to achieve a high level.
Yeah, of
but
course.
you see the people who like truly care about the sport, whether that be through becoming a coach. Not everyone does. That's okay. Just through helping their teammates. Plate loading, reffing.
Or even just being involved in the community.
Yeah, just like being an active member of like maybe of influence, or just being a positive presence.
Absolutely, and just like having more people, more bodies in the room. Like even something as simple as spectators can go a long way. You know, in terms of funding, or in terms of interest, or in terms of like accessibility. Like it's huge. Absolutely.
Yeah, because that way it shows that like anyone can get into it.
Yeah, for sure.
Even as long as you just give it a crack.
Yeah.
That's what people really care about.
It is funny because when I was watching those like the very, you know, the Chinese weightlifting house kind of docu-type videos, you just think to yourself like, geez, this looks so complex. Like how could you even get into this?
But seeing, you have to see it at a local level.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants people to get into the sport.
It's
always fun to see someone develop over time. Like, because, you know, with both of us being coaches, you have to pay attention to other athletes.
100%.
So, like, especially if they're competing against one of your athletes.
Yes.
You just say, oh, this guy he's been shooting up like crazy. Like their progress has been nuts. Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's really cool.
And once again, going back to that kind of coach aspect of it, it just like, you know, going from where I started the sport, having no idea how to do it. Like there's not a coach within 3 hours of my location. I pretty much had to, you know, it was all online coaching. And as we were talking about earlier before the podcast, just that initial like 6 to 12 months learning the sport. It's like you kind of need that hands-on experience. It's very hard to learn.
Extremely difficult to
Yeah.
learn online.
So like even now, I'm only a somewhat competent coach,
Mhm.
and there's so much I still need to learn and discover about the sport. But just kind of spreading that knowledge and information, like now that I inherit a little bit of that and can share it with people that are also kind of interested, it's almost like this kind of like secret power or like, unknown knowledge.
It's like an indescribable factor, I guess.
Yeah.
Only like people who have experience can share. It's really it.
Pretty much. And it's very different to a lot of other sports that exist. Like, you think about team sports, soccer, rugby, clubs that have been going for centuries, and it's, weightlifting is different. It's something that not many people do or know.
Yeah, exactly. I think it kind of I guess it relates to like martial arts in that way.
Yeah.
Because that's my background, right? And
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities in terms of just repeating
Yeah.
the same thing over and over again. Repeating the same weight over and over again, deliberate practice. That's been like really important, and I've been trying to convey that in my coaching at least. But just going back to your own, I guess your own switching hats to being an athlete.
Yep.
Do you have like higher goals because you're at the national level right now?
Yeah.
Do you aspire to get to regional, international levels? Or?
Yeah, I guess a big goal for me would be to represent Australia in some regard.
Green and gold singlet?
Yeah,
That'd
man.
be awesome.
Just to have the gear would be fantastic.
That'd be awesome.
And I think I've kind of come to terms with the fact that it's not fully in my control. That's a goal and that's all and well, but there's a possibility that I might never achieve that. I've just gone through probably my most impactful injury weightlifting thus far.
It was a stress fracture in the...
Yeah, it was around the ankle area. And I don't know if they never really decided if it was a stress fracture or just a small one, but
it was
still you needed, it was bone. So you needed that 6 weeks healing and 6 weeks reloading. And it might not, 12 weeks doesn't sound too long, that's like a training program, right?
Yeah.
But that also forced me to miss out on a competition in Perth, and I had probably spent the past 6 months preparing for that, so that was a big bummer.
Yeah.
And weightlifting, obviously something that I've kind of built my whole lifestyle around just to accommodate for my training. All of a sudden, I wasn't even able to do that. So I was, that was a very stressful experience navigating that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of lessons learned, and I've probably come out on the other side once again with more appreciation of the sport and just how much it's given to me and how much I really enjoy it, even in the absence of competitive related goals. And it was tricky as well because obviously I was probably in the best shape of my life leading up to that. So that's kind of put into perspective really just how, I wouldn't say little control, but there's a degree of chance, there's a degree of luck. You should kind of set yourself up from my perspective that these goals might not happen. Yeah. And you got to be okay with that. Because if the time comes, if other responsibilities prioritize, you kind of have to be ready to pivot and be flexible. Yeah. So that was a big exercise in being flexible. Yeah. But I think I have the ability to do it. And the other thing as well, the totals have changed over the past year, and there's not as many events that you can kind of qualify as there might have been last year or the year before. I haven't been around for too long, so I wouldn't know. But it is all a game of if you can kind of stay at that high level for a long time, the more chances you do have of representing. And that's probably my goal at the moment, just to get to a point where I have a comfortable lifestyle that I can train at my best and then also cater for other factors financial or personal or family responsibilities. And just do that until it kind of gets to the point where it's no longer satisfying me or fulfilling me as much as it has or will continue to do.
Yeah, making the most of this time that you have now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And going into my Perth prep, I was probably a little bit on the other side of that, where I was training as much as I could and as hard as I could, and whether or not that led to my injury or not, it's still kind of put into perspective of okay, maybe I could have done that for another year and a half or so until I burn out or whatever. Yeah. So now I need to take a step back and prioritize maybe other factors in my training. Rather than intensity, just consistency or smart training and once again, going back to the idea earlier of just training at my best for as long as possible, that's kind of led me to those conclusions. So, hopefully one day I'll be able to wear the green and gold singlet.
It'd be awesome to see, man. I reckon you have a really, really good shot.
Yeah, thanks,
to be honest, I reckon you have one of the best shots possible. Because from what I remember, at least, in the national leaderboard, I think you're 6th? Something like that?
Right now I'm like 17th.
Sorry. I was thinking of the competition itself. Sorry.
No, last year at Nationals I finished around
6th, right?
5th. At the competition.
Because you beat me.
Well,
yeah, I'm like, yeah.
I watched you.
Yeah,
I was like,
I remember.
I was like, okay, I've done my best I can. Now it's in the hands of these guys to figure out where I'm going to finish up.
Yeah, no, you did super well.
Thanks, man. The most entertaining part of that competition was watching you take was a 10 or 8 kilo jump.
In my clean and jerks?
Yes.
I think it was like 8 kilos.
It was ridiculous.
And
then
so
you had like a 20-minute rest, came out and nailed the clean. You paused the bottom for like 5 seconds and then just stood up like it was nothing, made the jerk, and then everyone's like, cheering you on. Was that the one that got overturned as well?
Or was it no, because snatches is where I have issues with press up.
Yeah.
Clean and jerks, it's not as rough. Clean and jerks, like, to be honest, thinking about it now, and like over the past time, I don't remember how I made that 160. That was stupid.
It was just it was entertaining.
I was just
entertaining watching. It was hilarious.
I was talking with Yannick and Maddie, and I'm like, let me try 160.
Yeah,
let me try it.
And honestly, like, you have all the odds against you. Like, if you, from the spectator perspective, looking at that, you're like, oh my god, there's no way this guy's getting it. For you to go out and prove us wrong was like the most entertaining experience ever. It's just so funny when you see something, you just see something on the board and you're just like,
that's dumb.
And then they go out and prove you wrong. You're like, oh wow, cool, man, well done.
We didn't really plan that. It was just like, I was just feeling really good.
Yeah. Well, when you feel good, you
just got to make the most of it.
While the iron's hot, Yeah. And it was the platform to do it on.
Yeah. Flying down to Melbourne.
Yeah. And make the most of that, hey.
Make the most of it.
Yeah.
So moving on to your coaching, and you recently moved from Bathurst to Riverina, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Walker.
Yep.
What's that transition like? Because you've been coaching at Bathurst for how long again?
6 years now.
6 years. Yeah. Quite a while. And you were telling me, like, before we started recording, like, a whole massive life change. Yeah. So what kind of prompted that change to move to?
Well, my girlfriend, she got a job there.
Yeah.
She's working as a women's health physio now.
Awesome. Yeah.
And which is like massive. That's kind of her dream job, so to speak. And there's nothing available in the current area that I live in.
Yeah. Is it quite niche?
Yeah, it's just there's one or two in the area,
right?
But like they kind of work for themselves. They're so full they can't really cater to anything else, like training another physio to help them or whatever. And her decision was more or less like, this is what I want to do. And she was very confident with that, and I'm like, I'm happy to support you. Like, awesome. I'm happy to do that. Sick. So I was and it's a new opportunity for me as well. Like, I have kind of toyed with the idea of moving to a different area before. It just wasn't the time, or the didn't really have the need, so to speak. I've lived in Bathurst my whole life, so moving out from your hometown is a scary experience. But that's I'm very grateful for my girlfriend, because she's pretty much organised everything in terms of moving experience. So I haven't really had to deal with much of that. So that takes the weight off my shoulders a bit. And now it's just like the kind of, because I'm a full-time coach, like that's my job. Just finding work there, it's a bit tricky when you don't know anyone, or you don't have any connections or anything. Like you're starting from scratch. A little bit scary, but I'm confident that I can make it work.
I'm sure you'll be all right.
I'm sure there's like a big fitness scene there.
Your track record, like, fine, man. Like,
just show them
the athletes that you've developed. Just show them your 161 clean and jerk.
Yeah, like, when do I start?
Show them. Have you done 130 snatch?
I did in training.
You should show them that.
Yeah, there's a lot of CrossFit gyms there, but it's a big there's a big fitness scene.
No
which is really
words,
cool.
just show them the video.
Yeah, and they're like, shake my hand. When can you start?
Contract and the keys.
Yeah. Here's the gym. You own it now. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's exciting.
It's a bit tricky timing. I don't know. It's funny because I got injured. I started my move, so there's a lot of turbulence for the past few months, and now we've moved. Now I'm not injured anymore, and now I've got 7 weeks to prepare for nationals. Yep. So it's like it's just so much has been happening. So much is it's just all like this little massive whirlwind of time, but it's kind of all coming to fruition, which is great. Like. I'm on the other end of it.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So,
and
very exciting.
See what's coming next.
Yeah.
So right now it's nationals prep.
Yes.
Has the 89s happened this weekend already?
It's happening right now.
Oh, is it?
The guys are weighing in.
Oh, okay.
As we speak.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And the session's at 1 o'clock?
I think 2 o'clock. Yeah, I think it's at 12 actually.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'll
So that'll be
that online.
Yeah, it's it'll be a good session. There's 16 people competing. It's huge. I think it's one of the biggest sessions this weekend.
Yeah.
But then
put into perspective how stacked that weight class is.
Oh my god!
Because you and I are both in there.
Yeah. And I know for a fact there's we're not there.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of other people that aren't there. And then I think a lot of the other states are having their competition as well this weekend.
Okay.
I know Queensland is.
Everything is lined up with Olympics.
Yeah, I think it's more to do with the qualifying periods.
Yeah,
nationals. So I think it's 6 or 7 weeks out. Qualifying period ends. Mm-hmm. So usually states is before qualifying last chance. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the case for all the competitions, but that's usually I think when they schedule the competitions for. But it is very interesting because you kind of have an idea of who's sitting where, after the qualification period ends, and then the entry totals come out, and it's all who's in what shape.
I think for both of us, it's good to see we got to watch out for this person.
Yeah. I already know who I'm going to watch out for, and I'm already feeling a bit intimidated. Really? No. Well, yeah, you don't know. You don't know until those final entry totals come out. Actually, you don't even know until you finish competing. To be honest, because honestly, anything can happen.
Someone could
injuries, bomb outs,
be a dark horse and just. Sneak their way into podium.
Crazy. It's so funny. It goes back to the wearing the two hats. As an athlete, I'm always what kind of moves are happening, who's sitting where. If my athlete came up to me and said that, I'd be like, what are you worried about? Just focus on yourself. Don't even think about it. Yeah. What are you doing? And then I go back home. I'm like, who's?
Because funny. That's not the time where you're coaching.
Just
at home chilling.
If my athlete said that to me, I'm like, just stop thinking about it, mate. What's your issue? And then I'm doing the exact same thing. It's ridiculous.
Remember, do as we say, not as we do.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
So you mentioned your coaching.
Mm-hmm.
When you see your athlete training over time, what's outside of the weights themselves? What do you value most in their training? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think the biggest thing for me, and this is another non-answer, so get ready for a terrible. But I think I value consistency.
Yeah. This is the kind of stuff. Consistency.
And it kind of that's obviously that's a very blanket statement, but I really want to know what my athletes value in a sense.
Yeah.
So if we look at it from the perspective of consistency, being a good athlete over time, what I was talking about earlier, you have to perform at your best for a long time to have more chances to succeed. That's where my head is as a coach. So if you look at someone and they're very motivated, and I see this in myself a lot, you're more or less the handbrake,
Yeah.
And if someone's going to succeed and they want to be a good weightlifter, and their interest is that, then they're going to have to make that kind of happen themselves, if that makes sense. I'm not forcing anyone to compete.
It's their lifting.
Yeah. If someone wants to train 2-3 times a week, I'm happy with that. I'm providing a sustainable structure and something that works in their life, and that, as a coach, or from my perspective, as my coach, as my role evolves, it's kind of adjusting that to their life situation. If I have a young athlete and maybe they've got more time on their hands, they can train more, and they're happy to and they want to, I'm happy to provide that. Let's do 6 sessions a week maybe. if maybe they're going through a tougher period, maybe it's exams, something like that, maybe we go to 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's just like on a meso level. If we look at a macro level over the lifespan, we're talking 5 years. Like if you have a young athlete, maybe they're going to uni, maybe they have a full-time job, all in that period.
Yeah.
And if they're training that entire time, they don't need to be absolutely redlining it.
Yeah.
They just need to
training.
and experience and competing. And that was probably my biggest mistake. I'm like, I need to go as fast as I can, as soon as possible, otherwise I'm missing out on all these opportunities, which it's funny, it's almost paradoxical. Like you have to kind of go slow. So what my role is, as I see it, is like, what do my athletes value? How can I align training in a sustainable manner that's also productive, which is it's a big challenge at times, depending on where the athlete is in their lifespan. And how can I make that happen over time where they continue training? Like, how do I maintain their interest over large periods without maybe PBs, if that's, what they're looking for? Or how do I keep them training through injury or life circumstances? Like it's going to be different for everybody, and I find it's a tricky balance, but at the end of the day, like that's just what it takes to, once again, succeed in the sport. That's what I kind of value the most, just that consistency over time, because once again, youth athlete, you give them 10 years, they're going to be very, very good if they want to be.
Ultimately, it's up to what they want.
Because if they don't want to do that, then
you can't force them to do it. It's just like, this is what I can offer.
Absolutely.
I can show you the path.
And they can still be very good athletes. Right? They can still be very good athletes just doing it casually in a manner. Like if you think of someone that, redlines it for seven days a week for 2 years versus someone who maybe does it 2 or 3 times a week for 10 years. Like obviously it depends on a lot of things, but from my perspective, like the person that's done it for 10 years has probably gotten more out of the sport than that other person, and I'm just really playing a game of like, let's wait and see what happens. Let's wait and see what happens. And are you enjoying it? Is it working? Okay, let's keep going. Yeah. If they want to go that next level, I'm going to help them kind of make it work for them.
Sure, yeah, for sure. Like balancing that enjoyment factor.
Yes.
I find for me personally, it's like one of the highest priorities, but it's also really hard.
Yeah,
because like there are some things that like an athlete is really good at, and they'll obviously want to keep doing the thing that they're good at.
Yes.
But you have to address their weaknesses as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one.
But as people grow and experience, and this once again comes down to consistency, as they experience phases of their training cycle, you can sit down with someone and talk to them. Like some people are more motivated to achieve those higher goals, and they can sustain that interest over a longer period. And you don't know that straight away. It takes a lot of relationship building to understand that. But some people might not be, some people maybe they'd rather just like go all out now, and maybe they won't kind of have that, they won't even worry about doing it next year. It's very different for everyone. But for the people that want to go far, they're more or less happy to kind of be like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I don't care if this is a bit more boring. And it's always that negotiation. Like, any good coach is able to tell you, it's an intersection between the athlete's goals and the coach's goals. But it's tricky with everyone, really. Like, if you're doing your job well enough, you should be addressing all weaknesses, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned productive training.
Yes.
In that.
Yep.
What determines a productive session?
Yep.
Versus a non-productive session?
It would definitely depend on a lot of things, like the athlete's training age, their current phase of training, like what's the goal of this training block, what has their training looked like in the past, and what does it need to look like in the future. So if I'll give 2 very extreme circumstances. Sure. Maybe I have an athlete come in twice a week. Maybe, they're studying, they've got shift work, that kind of stuff happening. If they can just put together some decently technical lifts, and like they can kind of do that to the point where it looks similar, more consistent than it did the previous few weeks, then that's like a massive tick for me.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be super heavy.
No, absolutely not.
It just has to, good technique.
Absolutely.
Moving well, like athlete satisfaction with their lifting on that given day.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for that person as well, like if I'm thinking of this person in my head, that looks like for them, they're coming into the session maybe with something that maybe they don't eat anything before the session usually. So if they've had even a Big Mac beforehand, that's good productive training for them in that scenario. And for some people it might be the opposite. Some people, they might need to take a step back. Maybe they train 4 or 5 times a week. Maybe they can't do any more than they already do. So a productive session for them might be sticking to the program that I've written and not looking to go outside of that for the sake of progress, and just acknowledging that they need to kind of go a bit slower. So once again, it looks very different for everyone depending on the training block, but that I kind of like to take more of a hands-off approach and just more or less poke my athletes in the right direction of how they should be, because over time, I can trust them to get into a good groove of what serves them the best, and they will more or less know for themselves what is going to be most productive. And then it's just kind of me on to raise those questions and be is this productive? Is this working for you? And just kind of be a sounding board, more or less. Once again, depending on a lot of situations and varying factors, but
nice. No, it's really good. I think everyone can, because you mentioned they were 2 extreme cases. I think everyone can fall in between.
Absolutely, it's a massive
space
spectrum.
On that spectrum. It's actually quite huge, just because you mentioned shift work.
Yes.
Not everyone can train during coaching hours.
No way.
Sometimes you just got to train at 3 a.m.
Yes. Sometimes you got to get it done.
Sometimes you just have to do it.
Yeah.
But
and even if that's not ideal training, it's
but
better
as
than
long
no
as
training.
you're getting it done.
Yeah. What's the alternative? Don't do it at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to be honest, going back to this extreme example, sometimes not doing a session is in your best interest.
Definitely.
Sometimes,
especially if I don't know, there's a flare up.
Yes.
Something in an injury.
Yeah.
Or you just had a really rough day.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's the last thing you want to do is train. But
are you adding unnecessary stress? Is
individual to individual.
Yeah.
Because there's cases where they're just kind of being a whinge.
Yeah.
But
it's funny.
There's genuine circumstances that are out of their control.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just poking at that, finding out.
Yeah, finding out what's
a little
best.
bit of detective work.
letting. I also am a big believer in letting them make the decision first, and then just kind of following up on top of that.
Yeah.
Like I said, prodding them along in the right direction.
Yeah. I think that also just helps build their autonomy as well.
Absolutely.
And
that's probably, I guess, going back to my values, autonomy is a huge one in weightlifting. If I can give someone the skills and the tools to be able to be a good athlete and conduct their sessions in a productive and consistent manner, that's a very valuable skill to have. Something that I probably had a massive deficit within just starting weightlifting, looking to go super heavy all the time and just max out everything, or just not really know what I'm doing, so to speak. I was never really taught gym-based training skills. It was always, if you come from a rugby league background, for a fact that the coaches just during off season work you over as hard as they can. Here you go, do 100 Malcolms. We're going to just make you work for the sake of working, and maybe that does work. You've induced some fatigue. I know that's not how they're thinking. They're just thinking we need some fitness. But if you come into the gym with that mindset, it's very, very short lifespan.
Yeah,
you're almost guaranteed
you can't do that. What's a Malcolm? Sorry.
Oh, it's just heaps of running. It's going up and back. It's you go to the 0 meters, 10 meters, back to the 0 to the 20 to the 30. So you're going, It's just heaps of running. Just to make you tired for the sake of being tired. And who can be mentally tough to continue on after their fatigue and do tackling or skills work or whatever. It's just old footy boys stuff.
I do think there is a place for that kind, not to that
Absolutely.
extreme.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think the best example would be during comp prep.
Yes.
Last couple of weeks before the taper.
Yes.
It's going to be rough. Everything's
you're inducing fatigue, you're
fatigued,
simulating.
Crazy. And you just have to push through, especially on a heavy session.
Yes.
Where you probably don't even want to go heavy.
No, for sure.
You're just beat up and tired. But
I think the biggest difference is that's kind of structured, planned fatigue. The one I'm referring to is just because the coach feels like it. That's what they've done for many years.
it's all part of the plan.
Yes, for sure.
And it's as long as the athlete can see that there is a plan and they're not just aimlessly training just to train.
Yes.
That's
probably where I was at the start. Just train to train.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you start. And unless you have someone there in your ear telling you what to do, how to do it, you don't know there's any other way. The skills that I've amassed over the past 3 years have come probably more than technical development, just in terms of how to train and go about it. And it's something that I'm, as an athlete, as a coach, I could talk all day about them. But as an athlete, there's a lot of more components, a lot more psychological, emotional components to go into it. So it's when you're so close to it, it's very, very, very hard to, actually put together what you need to do to achieve that kind of structured training. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So you're a full-time coach.
Yep.
Athlete.
Yep.
What do you do outside of weightlifting?
Good question. Great question. I play video games intermittently.
Oh, nice. What do you play?
At the moment, I'm playing Borderlands.
Oh, I love Borderlands.
Yeah, but it's tricky. I'm really getting into it. I love it at the moment.
Which one are you playing?
Number 2.
Oh,
I used to play
that's probably the best one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably, yeah.
Number 2 and 3. I'll do number 3 after I finish number 2.
Oh, nice.
If I get there. It only captures my interest for only a month at a time.
Yeah.
The trap, I don't know if you have this. Obviously, there's something inside my brain that's very competitive.
The monkey brain.
Oh my god, I have the biggest monkey brain in the whole bloody world. Holy crap. I was getting into competitive games during high school and just get adrenaline. So if I play video games too much, it almost exhausts me for weightlifting.
Yeah, that competitive drive.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I stopped playing competitive games.
Yeah.
I just play pretty chill games or single player games a lot of the time. Every now and then I'll play with friends.
Yeah.
But we try not to be too competitive, but it happens.
I know. It's such an easy trap to fall into.
Sometimes you just can't help it.
It's so accessible.
You just want to win.
I know. And that's why I've kind of stayed away. I was big video games back in the day, but big surprise, they're probably not as good for you as...
Oh, probably not, yeah. Especially when you're doing it 8 hours a day.
Oh my god, I know,
I can probably only do not that long of a session anymore.
I limit myself to 2 hours.
Yeah, that's good.
I can't do
that's
any more
really
than
good.
Yeah, it's like that kind of when that boredom comes on, you're like, okay, you need to stop now because this is the novelty's worn off.
Yeah,
and if you keep digging deeper, it's
if it feels like a treadmill.
Yeah, seriously. Really, and then the second it feels like that, and then you're stuck in. You're in the hedonistic treadmill, or you're on the stupid dopamine bloody system. I don't know, man. So video games is my forced downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, really not much else. I sleep as much as I can.
That's good. That's really good.
So that's another thing. But between work and training, I'm just so tired, most of the time. So any downtime that I get is just
reality.
and I've accepted that as well. And I don't mind
just
either. I've just this is how I'm going to spend my life. I find this fulfilling. This is a decision I've made. Yeah. And any other downtime that I have, would be with family, friends.
A bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm happy to do that. I like I said, I've structured my whole training to what I think is a fulfilling lifestyle for me. So I have time to fit in, for my girlfriend, family, friends. Even if it's not as much as it could be, that's okay. I've decided to do this with my life at this point in time. So,
awesome. Do you have an idea on what you want to do post-athletic career?
I'm really liking the coach S&C kind of thing at the moment. I didn't as much prior to weightlifting and just normal PT stuff. But the more I specialize in certain areas, I guess the more I'm enjoying it. I did start, so I've done my degree in sports science, and that wasn't necessarily helpful because I was still doing the same thing after I finished to what I started. I did find the whole experience, you're in university, get a degree, that was not too bad. I did start doing some psychology subjects.
Nice.
It's just the thing with obviously I'm moving, so I'm deferring that for a little bit. But with the psychology pathways, it's another full-time study for 5 or so years. It's a long, long time. And I can't balance that with training and also work. So, in an ideal perfect world, I'd love to be a psychologist, something along those lines. Nice. But if I don't get the opportunity due to I'm training too much or if other responsibilities or whatnot come up, I'm kind of also that's okay. That's all right. I'm enjoying what I'm doing enough now, and it's kind of making me a sustainable living. What more do I want? Yeah. So, I guess we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens, because it's the prime time to do. A competitive sport.
Absolutely.
You're 24?
23 this year.
23 this year. So it's the perfect time for it.
Yeah, I've got another decade.
You got ages, man.
So and also study, I can kind of do that at any point later.
Yeah,
not that I can't train, but it just if you're looking at it from that perspective, decades away, this is the thing that I want to be doing now, so I'm going to do it.
Make the most of what you can do now, and then figure it out later.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I think I'm all out of questions, but
Yeah, okay.
but it was really fun. Like,
Yeah,
we've
thanks
run
for-
for about 59 minutes. Dude.
Oh, cool. That went quick.
Yeah, dude, it's time flew.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Not a worry. Thanks for coming up to Sydney.
Letting me. Yeah, that's all right. I was here anyway.
Yeah, we did. I'm like, all right, I got to get Patty.
Yeah, man.
Because he's in the area.
Bro, I probably won't be. Oh no, I'm coming back for nationals.
The
'cause nationals
Nationals,
this year. Yeah,
like
yeah.
7 weeks.
Yeah.
I'll definitely see you then.
Well, that's the issue about moving because
Yeah.
I'm 2.5 usually from Sydney, but now I'm going to be 5 out, so
Yeah.
it's going to be probably.
Is there an airport there?
There is,
Uh-huh.
but tickets are very expensive.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you know how much
Not really.
being a weightlifting coach pays, but it's
Oh,
not enough.
yeah, I
Not
have an
enough.
idea.
I'll be catching the train,
I have an idea.
not the plane. But
Don't
yeah,
worry.
thanks for having me, man. It was
Don't worry.
awesome.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
No problem.
Yeah.
Can I plug my?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I forgot to
sorry.
say.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Please. Do.
Only because I've just started. It's brand new.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Please plug everything. Summit performance. All that.
So I've just started. I'm kind of obviously talking about moving, going out on my own, starting my own thing at Wagga. It's called Summit Strength and Performance. I've got a Instagram page. I'm building a Facebook and social media website page. So yeah, if anyone's interested, definitely give that a follow.
Awesome.
Otherwise, you already said earlier, Coach Patty on Instagram.
Yes. Please follow him.
Thank you.
Really
Jono.
good.
Yeah, cheers, man. Appreciate that.
All right. See ya.